Hey everyone, welcome to Judging for the Win. I'm Dave, and this is my daily ruling. Today's question is a Judging for the Win classic, and it comes straight out of the Judge Vault. Amy plays Grizzly Bears while she controls Rest in Peace. Nick plays Lapse of Certainty against the bear. Into what zone is Grizzly Bears placed? Okay, so first off, let's identify what rules topic we should be thinking about here. We know that normally when a spell gets countered, it goes to its owner's graveyard. But both Rest in Peace and Lapse of Certainty want to change that into a different zone. In both cases, we can say that this is via a replacement effect because both cards use the word instead. Now, some people probably thought that Amy gets to choose what zone to put the Grizzly Bears in because she is its controller, and they knew this rule here, which says that if multiple replacement effects want to modify how an event affects an object, that object's controller chooses which one applies first. What's less well known, because it doesn't come up as much, is that this is not a free choice. Rather, some replacement effects have precedence. If you know how continuous effects work, where they apply in layers based on what type of effect it is, replacement effects work basically the same way. There are actually 5 different types of replacement effects, but most people don't realize this because 95% of the replacement effects people encounter are in the 5th, lowest precedence category to apply. Unfortunately, while Rest in Peace is part of this 5th category, Lapse of Certainty, being a self-replacement effect, is not. A self-replacement effect is just where a resolving spell or ability replaces part or all of its own effects, such as how Lapse of Certainty replaces putting Grizzly Bears into its owner's graveyard with putting it on top of that player's library instead. Self-replacement effects are the highest precedence. Amy must choose to apply this one first. It's not relevant for this question, but I know some people are probably going to be curious. So after that, you would apply effects that change whose control something enters under, and then effects that cause something to enter as a copy of something else, and then effects that cause a card to enter the battlefield transformed. And after that, all of the other types of replacement effects can apply. Within each of these 5 layers, the affected player chooses the order replacement effects apply, but the layer system must be respected. Because of this phenomenon, Grizzly Bears is put on top of Amy's library and not exiled. Now, the first time I covered this interaction, I pointed out its similarity to a well-known ruling from the modern format. The interaction between using Snapcaster Mage to flashback a spell like Lightning Bolt and getting that spell remanded. While both of these cards have long since been power crept out of the format, the interaction is still relevant to this question because of its similarity in the setup, yet it has a different answer. In this case, the remanded spell would be exiled, not returned to its owner's hand. The reason for this difference is another peculiarity of how replacement effects apply. Longtime fans of the channel might remember that once a triggered ability has triggered, there's no way for it to untrigger. It'll go on the stack and eventually resolve, even if the stuff that happens in the game between the time when it triggers and when it resolves means that the trigger condition might not be relevant anymore. Replacement effects do not work this way. Replacement effects don't have an equivalent of the stack or a buffer where once they make it past a certain point, they're safe and will definitely apply. Rather, anytime something is about to happen in the game, the goblins who are in charge of replacement effects check to see if it will interact with any of them. If so, they collect all of the replacement effects that could potentially apply onto a list, and then the appropriate player will choose one to apply according to the rules that we were talking about earlier. After that, the whole process is repeated until no replacement effects can apply. Important to note, the goblins do not recycle the list when this happens. They start from scratch each time. Just because a replacement effect was applicable last time doesn't mean it's guaranteed a spot next time, and the reverse is also true. A replacement effect can become relevant to an event after a different replacement effect modifies it. What cannot happen is a replacement effect applying to the same event or modified event more than once. Obviously, if this could happen, there would be a lot of game-ending infinite loops of infinitely applying the same replacement effects. Let's examine the scenario from the original problem statement in light of all this information. The goblins present Amy with a list that contains the self-replacement effect from Lapse of Certainty and the normal replacement effect from Rest in Peace. Amy is obligated to apply the Lapse of Certainty first because it has a higher precedence. After this, the goblins make a new list of replacement effects that could apply. The event is now counter Grizzly Bears and put it on top of Amy's library. Because no cards are going to the graveyard in this new event, Rest in Peace does not apply, and so we're done. That's the event that actually happens. Contrast this to the Flashback plus Remand scenario. It starts out pretty similar. The Remand's self-replacement effect has precedence, so it applies first. Now the event is counter Lightning Bolt and return it to Amy's hand. Flashback doesn't just apply when the spell would be put into a graveyard, though. It applies anytime the spell would leave the stack for any reason. So the goblins then present Amy with a list containing just that replacement effect from Flashback, the only one that's still relevant to the event that's happening in the game. After applying it, the net result is that the bull is exiled. Because the Flashback replacement effect is worded such that it applies even after applying the self-replacement effect, the answer changed. Pretty cool, right? And that's all I have for you today. How did you do? Join me again next time for another daily ruling. Until then, I hope you have a great day.